Hello there. My name is Edgar McGregor, and welcome to my personal sea glass collection that I've hunted here in the state of California. This sea glass has been hunted over, I would say, probably 40 or 50 different unique visits to the beach. This sea glass ranges in all sorts of different shapes and sizes and colors, and I think you might enjoy this video. It's going to be a pretty long one. I'm going to go over all the different places that I found sea glass, all the different jars, and inside that chest and back there is some of the most amazing pieces of sea glass that I've collected over the years. The journey starts with this jar over here. This was sea glass I collected in 2017, 2018, and 2019. Not a whole lot because I wasn't, massively into the hobby at the time, but I did find some incredible pieces during that era. There's a lot of very large, rounded pieces that is produced in Southern California due to the fact that the waves are a lot smaller and there's a lot more sand to kind of round out the glass. In Northern California, a lot of the sea glass is going to be smaller because the sea glass gets pushed against rocks, broken apart, and it just doesn't stay a very large size for very long. One of the more interesting pieces of sea glass that I found from this era was this piece right here. I've tried to Google lens it in the past. If anyone knows what this is, I would love some information on that because it's got this logo on it and it's such a weird and unique piece of sea glass that is one of my more favorites. So I hope that this image right here is good enough for you to try and Google lens it, but I just note that I was unsuccessful when I did that. The next sea glass jar is over here. This is sea glass that I collected in 2020 and 2021 during the bottom of the pandemic. This sea glass, I didn't hunt as much then either, at least not as much as compared to today. There's a few interesting pieces. This one is pretty yellowed, so I know that this piece of sea glass is very old. Once again, in Southern California, the sea glass is much larger than it is up in the Bay Area, just because the waves are a lot smaller and the sea glass can, spend more time rolling around. This is a pretty interesting one. It's like box-shaped. Now this last jar of Southern California sea glass is all the sea glass that I collected on the weekend of January 10th and 11th, 2022, right? So this was sea glass hunt from 3 years. This was 2 years, and that was 1 weekend. I was hunting sea glass on the beach. I could not find it, and so I was cleaning up trash that was washing ashore instead. A lifeguard came up and asked me what I was doing. I said I'm collecting trash, but I'd like to be collecting sea glass, and he said, there's a spot about 2 miles down the beach that has a whole bunch of rocks in front of the lifeguard tower. You might be able to find some down there. So I grabbed my bags and I went down there and I just raided that place like crazy. And there were other people there hunting with me, and look how much sea glass I was able to pull out. It's incredible. These are very large pieces of sea glass on several different occasions. It's just amazing. This one right here was actually the bottom of a wine glass. You can note by it's kind of like flat bottom over here. In fact, there is another piece of sea glass that's in the chest that would be similar to what goes on top here, right? Because this is the base of the wine glass, and then there's the kind of, the pole that goes up, and then where you hold it up here. And so I think it's probably not the same wine glass, but I found a piece of sea glass that would be this pole, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Now the sea glass that is in front that is separated by color, it is mostly because all that sea glass is from the Bay Area. I do go to school up at San Jose State, and every weekend I will take a little trip to the beach to hunt sea glass. I'm mostly hunting in Half Moon Bay and a little bit south towards Pescadero. I haven't been hunting in Santa Cruz all that much because I think Santa Cruz is a little bit too popular and there's too many people, and I like to hunt sea glass by myself. Now, the one spot that I do hunt sea glass is a little bit secretive. I saw a comment somewhere that someone had that someone else heard that there was sea glass at this beach. They went looking and they couldn't find any. And so I went looking as well several years after they posted that comment, and I found the sea glass that they had missed. And it has been incredible. I've been raiding that pool every single weekend for a very long time. It doesn't matter if it's a high tide, low tide, that sea glass is there, and I've been raking it in. Now, when I clean up trash on my daily trash pickups, I find interesting jars on occasion. These two white jars here are actually Gatorade bottles from the 1990s that was littered before I was born. And so I put all my white sea glass that I collected up in the Bay Area into these jars. I've got a few cool jars like this one. This is just an interesting jar I came across while shopping, and it's got all of my blue-ish kind of Coke bottle sea glass in it, and a little bit large forest sea glass, like forest green sea glass that I couldn't put in this little one because it's larger, and the hole to this one is pretty small. These two little jars here are identical. I found them on the bluffs in Half Moon Bay. This kind of a trash dump site, and it was, I just happened to find one of the small ones, and I looked over and saw a second small one, and they're completely identical. So I brought them both home, cleaned them up as much as I could, and I put my dark green and my lime green sea glass in there. This is kind of some, amber sea glass, just a little bit lighter brown than the regular brown, but I haven't really sorted through the brown all that much to pick it out, and so there could be a lot of brown in here that should be in this jar instead. This is my lime sea glass that I collected from Southern California. It's not really the Kelly green, it's more lime, and so I think it deserves its own jar. But notice, all of this sea glass is much larger in here than in here. It is totally not separated by size whatsoever. It's just all the sea glass in the Bay Area is so much smaller than the sea glass in Southern California. It's amazing. These jars over here are the Kelly green and brown sea glass that I collected in the Bay Area over the last several months. This is some of the kind of blue sea glass that I collected in Southern California. Just the rule of thumb in this video, if it's small, it's from the Bay Area. If it's large, it's from Southern California. This jar over here I also found on a cleanup. It is my pink sea glass. Never thought I'd have a jar dedicated just to pink sea glass, but I think it's amazing. One could argue that one of the pieces on the bottom there might be a little bit more purple, but I think, yeah, you see that one on top there, like right here. I think it's still pink. It's just kind of a darker pink. I do not have a piece of purple sea glass, unfortunately. I had a dream a few nights ago that I found one, but alas, it was not real. This sea glass, of course, is large, meaning it's from Southern California. It's some of the more interesting pieces that I found down here, but because this sea glass, the colors aren't amazing, or there's a lot of just broken pieces like you can see in that blue one right there. While it is amazing, and I like this jar, it is not as cool as what is in the chest, because what is in the chest is the best sea glass that I've collected from both the Bay Area and Southern California. Very quickly though, this is some of the cooler pieces that I found in the Bay Area. This is a piece of driftwood that I found up there as well. There's a shark tooth, a little piece of brick, some tile, a few pieces of black sea glass that are very rare, more pieces of tile, some pink, and a few other interesting colors. But let's go to the chest, because I am sure that that is what you guys might be most interested in, because the sea glass in here is astounding. These are the best pieces of sea glass I've ever collected in my years picking up sea glass. The little shelf on top are the amazing colors, and there's pretty much every color that you can imagine here. I've got blues, yellows, a few pieces of sea glass that are trying to be orange but aren't quite. I have black sea glass, I have marbles, I have gray sea glass, I even have a piece of red sea glass. And unfortunately, I have not found purple or a true piece of orange yet. I know this one is so close, it's just not as deep orange as I would like it. But starting off with some of the yellows that I found, I actually found these pieces of yellows and this red piece, which is extremely rare, on the same day. I was really hunting sea glass that day. It was raining ash, and I was getting all sorts of amazing colors. This red piece is probably one of the most, I would say it's the second most amazing piece of sea glass that I own, just because of its color. I would like for it to zoom in a little bit. There we go. Yeah, it is amazing. It's definitely got a very unique shape among pieces of sea glass, that it has that kind of like, notch in it, but that is my second most incredible piece of sea glass. There's a few other interesting pieces. We've got some marbles over here. We've got this piece. It's kind of like a, perfect semicircle. We've got some oceanic turquoise, lots of blues. This is a piece of black sea glass. This is actually an insulator that was used on power lines that probably blew down and got into the ocean. And because they were so common, I actually have several pieces of sea glass, like that one right there. And where's the other one? I have a second one in here. There it is. Yeah, so see all these pieces of black sea glass, they're very similar. They all have that circular kind of notch in them, and that's because they all come from the same source. They were insulators on top of power lines. Now, the sun is not shining right now. If I were to shine this up to the sunlight, you might be able to see that it's a very dark purple, but maybe you can see a little bit there as well. But it is technically black sea glass. So there's a few other pinks in here. Most of the pinks are going to be in this jar, however, because I now have so many of them that they're taking up space. I think one of the other more amazing pieces is going to be this kind of bluish gray as well, and I'm going to put it onto a piece of white sea glass to show you just how amazing that is. I actually didn't realize I had picked this up until I had sorted out my sea glass by color. Even in Southern California, I will sort it by color, but I'll put it back all together again in the same jar. In the Bay Area, I'll leave it separated by color. But it wasn't until I separated this sea glass by color that I realized that this particular piece was very different from all the other whites that I had put it together with, and it's just amazing. Right next to that one, that little piece, there's a whole bunch of little grays in there actually. These two pieces of gray over here, I'm going to take out that marble, are kind of a little bit sharper. Like they aren't as round as I would like them to be, this one and the triangle shaped one. But this little kind of pebble as well, that's also a piece of gray sea glass that I found up in the Bay Area. Now down here at the bottom of the shelf is also incredible sea glass that is amazing not in its color but in its size or its shape or its prominence. One of the most amazing pieces down here is going to be this bottle top. I was actually hunting sea glass one day. I couldn't find anything. I went up and down the beach for miles. There was just no sea glass to be had, and I was kind of like looking at the tide pools, and I looked down and I found this piece of sea glass with its original cork still stuck inside of it. It's the only piece of sea glass I found that day, and I was just amazed that this had come up. Truly an incredible piece. We also have this piece right here. This used to be a jar. It's very old, probably 70 or 80 years spent in the ocean, but I think it's an amazing piece just in its own size and its own prominence. The color is nothing special, but given that's a little bit more yellow than the regular piece of white sea glass, see how these two pieces, they're a little bit dirtier than the white? That means that they spent a lot more time in the ocean, and so they're a little bit older. So that's an amazing piece as well. In here, we also have one of these burnt sea glass. This is bonfire sea glass. It was thrown into a fire and then thrown into the ocean. This one in particular is very well rounded. It looks like when the sea glass melted, or when the glass melted, it kind of got into a much more rounded shape. And then when it solidified again, it took in some of that sand, and it's just spent a very long time in the ocean and became well rounded. This piece over here is also incredible. When I was hunting for the sea glass from this jar, I was actually walking towards where the lifeguard said the sea glass was, and I found this piece just kind of sitting on the beach. And there were a few rocks nearby. I could not find any other sea glass, but I picked this up and was like, oh my goodness, look at this. And so I spent a few minutes in that area looking for more pieces of sea glass. Couldn't find any, and I had about another 30 minutes of walking to do before I got to where the lifeguard said the sea glass was. But this was just an incredible sea glass because I don't know really what it comes from. It could come from like a bong or something, but it's definitely a piece of art glass. It looks like it's kind of the same idea as a marble because the marbles kind of have that little bit of a wavy feature in them as well. But this obviously is not a marble because it's way too big to be one. So I'm wondering what the history of that piece was. So there's a few other amazing pieces down there. This is that piece that I was talking about earlier, actually, that would likely go to the top of a wine glass. It doesn't look like the same piece, but this is the base of the wine glass, and then this is the top. Maybe it's upside down. maybe it's like that. Like it would sit up here, and this is where the wine glass would then expand again, and where you put the wine. So this is also an amazing piece of sea glass that I keep in the chest just because of its prominence. So my most amazing piece of sea glass is actually going to be inside this jar. I know the red piece is incredible because red is such a rare color. I only have one piece. It's made with real gold. This is like the holy grail of sea glass hunting. Everyone loves it, but the most amazing piece of sea glass is actually in this jar. I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to So these are the most amazing pieces of sea glass that I have. Because as you might imagine, they are not normal pieces of sea glass. And especially not normal because you don't know what you've picked up until you get home. I didn't realize that this was a thing beforehand. This piece in particular always stood out to me because it just kind of seemed to glow. I never knew why. When I put it against like other sea glass, like look, you can just kind of tell that that piece of sea glass is really special. Yeah, its color is amazing, but why does it seem to glow even when I put it in pieces of sea glass, even when I put it in the lime sea glass? You can tell exactly which piece it was, even though you didn't even see me drop it into the jar, because it is such an amazing piece of sea glass, and I never understood why that was the case. Until, for my 22nd birthday, I bought myself a very special flashlight, a black light, and then I shined it on that piece of sea glass, and it revealed that it is not, in fact, a normal piece. It is uranium. It is a very rare piece of uranium sea glass. Incredible. That is why it's a much better piece of sea glass than the red piece. That red piece, I love it. It is my second favorite, but this uranium piece, amazing. And when I picked it up, I didn't even realize just how amazing it was, because it wasn't until I compared it to other pieces of sea glass while looking at it at home that I realized that something was special about it. Well, I went into this jar over here, and I went into this jar over here to look for other pieces of uranium sea glass, and I did in fact find more pieces of uranium. Now, if I put this one over here along with it, the first piece that I suspected was going to be something interesting is the most interesting of them all. It seems as though it's got more uranium than what the other pieces have. But that little one on the bottom there, right here, that's a pretty rare piece of yellow uranium sea glass. All of these other ones are kind of like the seafoam green. This one's a little bit lighter green, but that one's kind of like a light yellow. And so these are the most amazing pieces of sea glass that I have. I hope to find more uranium over the years. I couldn't find any uranium sea glass in the Bay Area. Every single weekend I'd come home, get out all my sea glass, I would look in this jar, and just nothing would show up. However, I did, on my very last hunt of the semester, find this piece. And now this is not sea glass. This is a piece of dishware, but it too does glow in the dark when shining a black light on it. And so it is also a very amazing piece of find on the beach. So there we go. That is my sea glass collection as of December 30th, 2022. I'm still looking for purple sea glass. I'm still looking for a piece of orange sea glass that is shockingly even more orange than this. Yeah, I know. That's more amber. But not having those pieces yet makes the hunt even more fun, because I have met people who have been hunting sea glass for decades, who have been hunting sea glass longer than I've been alive, and they have never been able to find a very rare piece of red sea glass just like this. And so it's an amazing hobby. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be posting more episodes of me hunting sea glass in both Southern California and Northern California over the coming weeks. Thanks for watching.